Now, our final speaker is the amazing Philip Dunn. Talk about old farts. Can't get much older. I can say that because he's older than me. Now, Philip is a silk of the Victorian bar who's had 40 years of experience. I told you he was old. As a criminal barrister, his clients have included John Elliott, Gary Ablett, Maritza Wales King, Alan Bond, and the West Australian coffin cheaters, just for a bit of variety. Through rape, murder and pillage, he says he is still searching for the perfect client. Can you help him?
Well, now, this question about size really sounds like something Hugh Hefner and Playboy came up with, doesn't it? The reality is this, that it really doesn't matter, as the Secretary of the Police Association, Mr. Greg Davies, found, it doesn't matter about the size of the helmet, it's how you use it. The fact is that big firms are expensive, big firms are impersonal, and big firms have a whole lot of problems for the clients because they cost one hell of a lot. Now, there are problems with being big. The first thing about big firms is they take up a hell of a lot of floor space. And that means it costs more to keep your rubbish bin on the floor, which has got to be paid for. And what they do is they have waiting rooms and they have acres and acres of marble, enough to keep Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo busy for years, just up here in Collins Street. Big firms have to support the lifestyle of their partners. Now, a small firm, a partner has a place at Rye, okay? Medium-sized firm, Lawn. Big firm, Portsea. Now, that costs. It all costs. Somebody's got to be wearing the Gucci slippers in the cruising range, and it all costs money, and the client has to pay. The fact is that big firms have hierarchy, they have language, and they have capacity to gobble up fees like nothing else on earth. There's a book written a few years ago called Hell is a Harbour View, about life in Sydney. That is, if you wanted to have a window room, you had to work like buggery. And that doesn't happen in that firm out in the suburbs or down in the country. You've got that idyllic view out the window of clients wandering by and coming in and treating you like people. You've got to learn a whole lot of new skills, when we've heard about some of them tonight, when you join a big firm. You've got to learn how to pass the buck. No, it's not me. I don't have the capacity. You've got to learn how to be anonymous at the right time. I don't know how you get on the lift. You've got to learn who to sleep with, apparently, to get into the wellness room. And one of the other things you've got to learn is, of course, the kitchen rules. Now, kitchen rules, is it muffin day on Thursday at Madgwick's? Or is it some other day? There's a whole lot of things that one has to learn and acquire about those sort of firms. But the big problem for the big city firms comes on July 1 this year. Carbon tax. Who produces more hot air? The big firms. They are the Latrobe Valley. They're the memorials of hot air production. What that means with carbon tax is they're going to have to offset with windmills. So now you're going to have all of these firms sponsoring wind farms. The top end of Collins Street is going to be populated by windmills. As you come down, what are you going to see? Whirring turbines, and there goes the Paris end of Collins Street. And what about the orange-bellied parrot? It won't make it to the shit farm down at Werribee. It'll be chopped up before it gets there. I'm telling you, there's trouble. Now, there is a very impeccable source that tells us about the work-life balance for big firms, small firms, and that is to be found in those invaluable websites such as Roll On Friday or FirmSpy. A little bit of research showed thus that the Aussie firms for the year 2012 results have come in on Roll On Friday, and they look at such things as pay, development, work life, openness, biscuits, toilets, and social life. I've got to tell you, the big firms don't rate well. Do you know that Cause rate 2 out of 10 for toilets? DLA Piper, 3.5 out of 10 for toilets. And Norton Rose, 4 out of 10. I tell you, I bet Sexy Kimmy doesn't have any trouble going to the toilet. And what's the most used room in the office? The toilet. And things like biscuits, for heaven's sake. Norton Rose got a crap result in biscuits. And what about Cause Chambers Westgard? 2.2% out of 10 for biscuit production. And quality of work life, guess who came down the bottom? All the big firms. So what I'd say to you is this, quite simply. Little firms are good. Little firms are Australian. Yeah. Now, that film, The Castle, you got to like it, right? It's Australian. And who didn't admire Danny Denuto? He got the vibe, right? He got the vibe when he went to court. And the fact is this, that it's un-Australian not to like little firms. You got to love them, and you got to love Danny Denuto, and you got to love The Castle. We don't need all these big American things or these big Chinese things. We don't need an office in Ulaanbaatar. We need one in Canterbury and Collingwood. We need it somewhere where it services people and looks after people, and real people see real people. And they talk in real language. They don't worry about capacities and dialogues and diarising. You got a problem? I'll help you. But at the end of the day, I have to say this. There is an example for you all, and it's called the Victorian Bar. As legal practitioners, we're kind of lean. Well, leanish. We're quick over the ground. We're always happy to take the work, big or small. At the end of the day, size doesn't matter a terrible amount. Thank you.